Okay, welcome everyone to this virtual meeting of Committee of the Whole for Smith Falls Town Council. We have all of our council colleagues present. CEO Morris, maybe you could give us a rundown of staff that are here with us.
Yeah, for sure. So we have Jennifer Miller is with us, Chief Cheeseborough, Manager of Water and Wastewater Jason Barlow is with us tonight to deliver a couple of reports. We have Clerk Carrie Costello, Director Manhire and Director Dunlop, and of course we have our Deputy Clerk Nadine Bennett.
Great. And I see our Student Councilor Lagasse is here, so welcome. And we'll get off any amendments to the agenda this evening. Deputy Clerk.
With Council's permission, I'd like to remove item 8.1, the planning report, Basile zoning amendment application. This will come forward at a future Committee of the Whole meeting.
Okay, we look forward to that and we'll remove it tonight. Any disclosure of monetary interest arising from the agenda? Seeing none, we have no delegations. We'll have a motion now for adoption of minutes, that the minutes of the Monday, January 25th, 2021 Committee of the Whole be received and filed. I need a mover. Councillor Dwyer, seconder. Councillor Alford, all in favor? Great. And I understand we have some directors' reports this evening, and CEO Morris, I'll let you lead off and introduce our directors and the reports that we have.
Okay, thank you. We have five in total, starting with Chief Cheeseborough.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Last week, our emergency control group met and we were discussing the recent activities that had taken place. There was some discussion regarding the expiry dates for the variety of orders that are in place. We contacted our field officer from emergency management and they have provided us with the stay-at-home order, which is due to expire on the 9th, the state of emergency, which is due to expire on the 11th, and the lockdown was due to expire on the 19th. We were advised that any and all orders could be extended based on the variant concerns and if case numbers increase. In accordance with our requirements to review our current emergency plan, we did have a discussion regarding adding the mass casualty to that. I had a discussion with the Deputy Chief Coroner of Ontario. The province currently has a plan in place. They provide direction to the Bereavement Authority of Ontario for that. This was a result of one or two municipalities that required refrigeration units for mass casualties. So we were praised for thinking outside the box and having that in place, and they are able to provide us with a copy of the provincial plan. Dr. Stewart advised that Lanark Leeds Grenville case numbers places us between the yellow and green zones, but technically we're still in the gray zone due to the lockdown. There were 3 clusters that were identified. The cases have doubled in the last 2 weeks due to these clusters. However, the case numbers appear to be settling down and we're generally doing well in Lanark Leeds Grenville. The health unit is working on a long-term vaccine plan and immunizing at the long-term care residents by last Friday. More Moderna vaccine will be coming in the next week. 4 to 6 sites have been set up, including Brockville, Kempville, and Almont, and they're currently exploring the possibility of having that for Smith Falls for mass vaccinations. Further pop-up sites in smaller communities, including Westport and Perth, are being considered. They will continue to use the mobile units as well as using paramedics to assist in that. Pharmacies will assist once more stable vaccine is available, and that's the vaccines that don't require the -70 temperature to be kept. They'll be working with the primary care at that point, as well as the seniors over 80 being the priority. Public health is not involved in the paid vaccine programs, and that's for tourists coming into our area. We talked about the reopening and the possible extensions. If it can reopen, user groups for the season will be looked at. That's for the arena, unless the dates get extended. We discussed the option of removing one of the ice services if the orders are extended. Partners not assisting in the maintenance costs or absorbing any of the costs for the current losses at the arena. A discussion about the advocacy for regional reopening options through our medical director of health. Ottawa has been advocating for this. Kingston was doing the same thing until the variant was discovered. A regional approach to this may be appropriate. Ottawa has joined the pilot project to do sewage testing to see if the variant is carried through the affluent. Vaccine site in Smith Falls being reviewed at the Memorial Center on the second floor using the side entrances. Possibly requiring exclusive use from February to October by the health unit if mass vaccination proceeds. Enforcement reporting happens on a weekly to the ministry and includes police and bylaw. They've captured those in the records management. And some provincial dollars received for the COVID relief last year can be carried over till 2021. Currently, the health unit has no advice or advanced knowledge of the reopening plans. They, however, encourage businesses and owners to watch for provincial media announcements. That is my update for last week's meeting.
Thank you, Chief. I look for questions from committee. Okay, seeing none, I just want to say, I mean, we had a announcement today, of course, and it looks like next week will be looked at. And as your report had indicated, we're between green and yellow right now. And, you know, we all watch the cases every day. So we're 1 or 2 cases. So hopefully we're green at that time. Yeah, Chief.
Yeah, just a quick update on that. We spoke with Dr. Stewart today, and in order to be part of the reopening that's taking place in the 3 units, you have to have 2 consecutive weeks in the green zone. We fluctuated between the green and the yellow and then back to the green, but they need 2 consecutive weeks. And we're awaiting information, hopefully by tomorrow, on what the parameters around lifting the orders are going to be, whether that's going to affect the gatherings. The province has received a number of requests with regards to arenas, ski hills, and other recreational facilities. That's not been provided. They're currently meeting this evening to release those details, as well as a number of people you can have within your bubble. And I need to stress that the reopening said it would do it for most retail. They did not capture or include restaurants or bars. So that's something just to take into consideration. So we're hopeful to have more information by tomorrow or the next day regarding what the parameters or what the restrictions are going to be.
Thank you, Chief. Important information. Thank you very much for that report. Who's next?
Next up, we have Ms. Miller to talk about economic development.
Thank you. So just one short update this evening. We have released an RFP to commission a retail market study as part of our effort to collect and analyze data to inform our economic recovery efforts after this pandemic is over, hopefully sooner rather than later. The report will examine consumer trends and summarize a market analysis. It will review gaps in our current retail market, and it'll look at retail business potential. It will provide us and our partners a foundation of data to better understand our retail industry. This study is also going to review the town's existing official plan policies and provide advice as to whether the plan's current policies and land use designations adequately reflect the needs of our retail sector. And then just a special thank you to Valley Heartland, as they made a financial contribution to this project as part of our combined efforts to assist our retail recovery efforts.
Thank you, Jennifer. Councilor McKenna, I think, has a question for you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jennifer, the study, is it exclusively to Smith Falls, or will there be some look at provincial or national or international trends on post-COVID? Just looking at our own retailers without looking at the bigger picture of where retail is going, is that part of the study, looking at a larger frame or the context with what we're working with right now?
Thank you. Through the chair, certainly the study will look at Smith Falls businesses specifically, but I would expect that they will compare those to provincial or national statistics. So I think there'll be a broader context, but it will look at our own situation.
Okay, thanks for that. Any other questions for Jennifer? Seeing none, I want to thank you for that. And, you know, it's proactive and due diligence to keep our finger on this. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Okay. CEO Morris, who's next?
Mr. Chair, next up we have Mr. Manheim.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just one update. Demolition work started at 54 Lombard today, and the contractor is scheduled to be on site for up to 3 weeks, depending on the weather conditions and building conditions. The work is starting with the safe removal of hazardous materials that were identified in the DSS, or the designated substance surveys that were conducted prior to the job being tendered. An example is the subcontractor was on site today to remove insulation that contains asbestos, and that asbestos will then be removed from the site prior to demolition of the structure. Once this work has been completed and the materials have been safely disposed of, the equipment will be brought on site and the structure demolished. The materials will be removed from the site and prepared with a layer of crushed stone in preparation for next steps in working on the intersection, as well as providing a clean slate to incorporate an entrance to Victoria Park as part of the design being undertaken by Parks Canada right now, and to create a better public access to the canal and Victoria Park.
Thank you. Councillor Alfred?
Just for clarity's sake, Art, the entrance, can you just elaborate on that? I don't suppose that's not a vehicle entrance.
Madam Chair, or Mr. Chair, no, it's it would be a pedestrian entrance. We don't have a design for that at this point. Parks Canada is actually engaging in that process, and once they get to a point where they have information to share, they'll be sharing it with the municipality.
Yeah, again, just for clarity's sake, because when we say entrance, people may jump to the conclusion that it's a gateway to that park and most likely a pedestrian access as well, nothing to do with vehicles.
That is the plan. Yes, thank you.
Okay. Councillor McGuire.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Art, what's the rules for snowmobiles in the parks?
Mr. Chair, it's a great question. Right now, we don't have that covered in our current bylaws, so we're currently looking at how we can incorporate information that will be useful for people in terms of that access. We prefer that people not use the parks right now, and we will be looking to incorporate that into the bylaw. It does damage our fields fairly significantly, so if people are using the trails essentially to get to the cat trail or the OVRT, then we certainly would encourage that, but we would prefer that people stay off the parks.
Great, thanks. And is the garbage checked in the parks over the winter time, or is it off limits too?
It's another good question. Some of the garbage is removed because it's not necessarily the parks aren't used in that way, but we still go through and remove any of the receptacles that are there.
Thanks.
Okay. Mayor Penko?
Yes, thanks. Art, back to 54 Lombard, is there an opportunity for any materials to be recovered, to be reused or recycled? I know it was discussed at one point.
Through the chair, the building is in incredibly bad shape at this point. We don't even have staff in there without proper PPE and full Tyvek suits. So we would not encourage that. We have reached out to REAL around any salvageable materials. And I would like to extend an invitation. There wasn't a local resident who was doing some work on their house and needed some brick that matched the brick on the side of the building. So I would encourage them to reach out to me to get some of that. But every opportunity that we have, we are looking at trying to reuse some of the materials.
Well, thank you. And the brick makes a lot of sense for a lot of homeowners in town. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. That would have been my question as well, because I know we had a house by the arena that they utilized, but that's good that we've reached out. So thanks for that. Back to you, CEO Morris, for our next report.
Yeah, we have a couple of items from Director Dunlop now.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. 3 updates from Public Works I'd like to share this evening. First is our 2020 annual drinking water report. In particular, what we refer to as our Section 11 report has been posted on the town's website. Have a look under the environmental tab under drinking water, and you'll see the document posted there. We've also, of course, shared that with the Township of Montague. The more thorough and we'll say the larger report the council is more familiar with, the annual report, or sorry, the summary report will be coming before council and presented on the 22nd of March. So that carries a separate deadline of March 31st, and we'll be making sure that we comply with the ministry's guidelines around that. Next update, Morrison Hirschfield. We're going to have our team present at the next committee of the whole meeting to provide a presentation on the status of Beckwith Street Phase 2. I'd like to have them share a lot of the good work that's been done to date. Some of the outcomes of the geotechnical work, the soils work that's been done, and it's a good opportunity for council to hear some of the opportunities and constraints that are shaping up for the site. So it's our intention to have that information presented to council before we move on to share it with a broader audience of stakeholders. Third update, we have some key tenders that we are going to be releasing this week. We are targeting the release of our 2 largest road projects this Thursday for bidding. First is going to be the Lombard Abbott intersection. Will be posted on Merck's on Thursday, again, our target. We're also going to have the Cornelia Street resurfacing tendered at the same time. By posting those 2 large projects and having a common closure date, we're really going to entice some competition there and hopefully get some favorable pricing for the town early in 2021. And that's all I have for this evening.
Thank you, Director Dunlop. Councilor McGuire has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just more of a comment, Director Dunlop. I don't think we quite made that 8 centimeter threshold for the sidewalk plows today, but I saw them out and the sidewalks look great. And I think overall this year we've been having a great winter for keeping the roads clean. So thanks to you and your team for the all the effort that goes into that.
Thank you. We'll share that with our team. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? I agree with Councilor McGuire. We have the best plowed roads in Lanark County, no doubt. Any other questions? No. Okay, CEO Morris, if you got another one.
Yeah, just one more, a very quick one. I just wanted to report to committee that the team appointed to renegotiate the operating agreement at the airport have started their work. So the mayor and councillors Alford and Brennan and I met with our friends and neighbors in Montague, as well as the executive for the Smith Falls Flying Club last week. We talked about the guiding principles to lead us to updated and perhaps more contemporary agreement. The Flying Club are considering those guiding principles, and we'll come back next week. We have a meeting scheduled. So those discussions are underway and they're progressing, and we'll keep committee informed of the end result. There's certainly some momentum around it, so I think we're in good shape, and we expect or hope to have something to committee in March.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions, comments? No, I would agree. There's momentum there, and we look forward to coming back to committee in March. So that is looking good. Any other reports, CEO Morris?
That's it for this evening. Thank you.
Yep, save the best for last. There's no correspondence items. We have no in camera, and we've agreed to defer 8.1. So we'll go straight to our priority issue 8.2, which is distribution of remaining SBAC reserve funds report with Jennifer Miller. Welcome back.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the Small Business Advisory Center Reserve Fund is one that's existed for many years due to historic surpluses from their program delivery. And the program's funded through the province's Ministry of Economic Development, Job Creation and Trade. And historic surpluses have allowed this fund to grow. Contributions are no longer being made to the reserve as surpluses for this program are no longer permitted by the ministry. The town of Smiths Falls and the county of Lanark have historically contributed to the annual operational costs of this program, and therefore we're able to use reserve funds at our discretion. You'll recall then in September of this year that council removed $50,000 from this fund to enable our support of the Smiths Falls Small Business Support Program, which was well received. With that withdrawal of funds, this is an ideal opportunity to redirect part of the reserve funds back to the county and to determine what course of action to take with the remaining funds belonging to the town of Smiths Falls. So it's therefore staff's recommendation this evening that council make a one-time payment of $111,325.26 to the county of Lanark, as per the breakdown in the report in front of you. And furthermore, it's recommended that council leave the balance of that fund intact for our future potential needs. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Questions from council? Councillor Alford, and then your worship.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. If I understand this correctly, what was it just the county and Smiths Falls, or did other municipalities contribute to the SBAC reserve, or just the county and Smiths Falls?
Through the chair, historically, it was the county and Smiths Falls. There is now, in most recent times, more contributors, but that is historically who has contributed.
Okay, thank you. I support staff's recommendation to take this opportunity to return the funds to Lanark County. I would say though, and Smiths Falls took part of their reserve or their share of that reserve out to support local business, and I'm sure Manager Miller will come up with some more creative ideas for what to do with the remainder that Smiths Falls has. But as this was a reserve to support local business, I'm hopeful that the county will take that money back and do something similar, possibly to what Smiths Falls has done in supporting businesses, not just within the county, but Smiths Falls also. I don't know what their plans are, and we certainly can't dictate that when we return the funds, but I certainly hope that they stay earmarked for support of local businesses, because those were rainy day funds, and as we all know, it's been pouring. So I would just make that comment about the funds going back to the county.
Okay, thank you for that. Mayor Penko, you had a comment?
Yes, Jennifer, you probably already have a few thoughts on what you would like to do with all or most of that 61,000, but I guess I would hope that we have something coming back fairly soon. I think that obviously we all know the needs are pretty profound now. And as Councillor Alford said, if it's a rainy day fund, it's pouring out there now. We need to do what we can to support. So I look forward to having something come back in the relatively near future. I'd be more agreeable, I guess, to finding a way to utilize it now more so than putting it away for the longer term.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? So I would support staff recommendation, and I'm looking at my council colleagues to see if they're nodding their heads. There's a thumbs up and nods. So we're going to support that, and I guess we'll need a motion, or Deputy Clerk.
So at the next meeting of council, resolution.
Okay. Okay, so that'll come forward, and thank you for that report. The next item is exemption to procurement bylaw capital items, and that's with Jason Barlow, our Manager of Water and Wastewater. Welcome, Jason. I haven't seen you for a while.
Yeah, good evening. Thanks, Chairperson Brennan, members of council. Tonight's report 2021-010 is for an exemption from the procurement bylaw for select 2021 capital items. The purpose is because these goods are greater than $20,000, so we'd like to gather the information for these and the procurement through quotations instead of the required tender process that is in the procurement bylaw currently. Every year, we advance capital items in the area of water and wastewater to rehabilitate or replace certain assets in the system. And in the case of the water treatment plant and wastewater treatment plant, the existing treatment processes often employ very specific equipment, and we have limited vendors or suppliers. So under the current purchasing bylaw, all goods and services valued at $20,000 or more shall be tendered through procurement process with prescribed advertising period of no less than 3 weeks. And the process also carries an obligation for added costs for document preparation, advertising, bid bonds, and public tender openings. Looking ahead, we're seeking to obtain exemption from the procurement bylaw to allow the 4 specific items within the report to be acquired through a competitive quotation process. The items are the correlation equipment, Win 911 software for our alarming systems. We have a sludge tanks mixer, which is the gear assembly for a mixing system, and also the wet well pump rebuild at the wastewater treatment plant. Going forward, there's 2 options for consideration on the staff request, and option one is not to grant the exemption, and option 2, which is recommended by staff, is to grant the exception on the listed products.
Okay, thanks. I got a question from Councillor Alford there.
Yeah, I think Jason has made a strong case for the competitive quote process, given that, as opposed to the tender, given the limited pool of suppliers on some very specific industry equipment, and the pricing timelines in working with the US, I can see would also, I agree, could be very challenging. So I certainly will support Mr. Barlow's recommendation.
Okay, thank you. Councillor McKenna?
Yes, I'm supportive of the staff recommendation as well, and I think the rationale for the request is well laid out. I did have a question. So when we got this request, I went back and just checked our procurement policy, and of course, it does allow for this exemption to take place. My question, I guess, for C.O. Morris is, it's a 2007 bylaw based on a 2001 Municipal Act, giving us the authority to actually make this exemption. Are we aware that, are we still using the 2001 Section 271 of the Municipal Act that gives us the authority to do this? Is it been updated since 2001? And is that authority still present, I guess, in the current Municipal Act? It's kind of a loaded question, I'm sorry.
Yep. Through the chair, so I would answer that in 2 ways. Yes, the authority exists within the Municipal Act, but our bylaw is a bit aged. So we do, it's under review at the present time, and we expect to have a redraft of the procurement bylaw coming forward in the first half of this year. So the limits are dated as well. So we need to look at balancing flexibility with ensuring we get good value for the taxpayers. So that's the lens upon which we're looking at the policy right now. So you can expect to see that on a future agenda.
Thank you. If I may, Mr. Chair, I just wanted to assure that we still have the authority to do this under the Municipal Act, and so that's done. So I do support the recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Any other questions? I think that we have support for this, and I have thumbs up and nodding heads and thumbs up. So that will come forward, I assume, Deputy Clerk, next week for a resolution or bylaw.
There'll be a bylaw to authorize exemption to the procurement bylaw at the next meeting of council.
Okay, look forward to that. So thanks for that. And I think you're still up there, Jason, for the MECP report, and we look forward to this.
Thank you, Chairperson Brennan. So tonight we bring forward report 2021-009, which is our MECP inspections that took place November 2019 and October 2020 and there are annual water system inspection reports. The purpose of this report is to provide council with a summary of the information on the outcomes on those related inspections, and also to reduce the length of size of our summary report coming in March. On the background, as part of the provincial legislation and the Safe Drinking Water Act, the town of Smith Falls is required to have an MECP inspection annually to ensure the drinking water system is in compliance with all the relative and expected provincial regulations, and that we are following the requirements in our drinking water license and drinking water works permit. So under analysis and options, the first inspection was completed in November 2019. This inspection was completed a few months ahead of what we were expecting. Past history has these inspections being completed in our system in January. So with that report and the delay with the results for the inspection in March, it was decided at that time when COVID struck the province that we would delay and have this all come together within our summary report, just to make it easier. And we weren't bothered. We weren't sure how meetings and stuff were going to go at that time. But then we were given a different inspector, and they came in to inspect this past October. And with both of these reports coming in at the same time, it created a very lengthy summary report. So we decided that we would bring this forward so that council could isolate and see the results of those inspections without all the other information that's involved in the summary reports. I can go over in the 2019 report, there were 5 non-compliances. All of these have been dealt with. There was an action plan and a response required for 3 of those issues, and we got successful resolution from the ministry for those. And the most recent report, there were 2 non-compliance issues that were dealt with our drinking water works permit application. We had the renewal on January 15th. We sent the renewal in, and part of the resolution for this inspection was to ensure that the proper documentation was with the license renewal for the municipality. So there was no formal response on that report. Other items listed as the summary recommendation and best practices, those are listed here, and those are in the report for becoming industry standards or best practices for municipalities, and to make sure that we address in future requirements to facilitate and make sure that we have a proactive approach for the system. Those deal with things like the water loss and non-revenue audits, the water tower and the reservoir requirements, and some of our modifications that we're doing to the aqueduct and different parts of the system. So just to ensure that we are looking at these items, they're listed here, and I also put in kind of when they were dealt with or are being dealt with by the municipality to ensure that we are looking forward and trying to get these things done proactively. And the last is the inspection ratings. You can see the inspection rating for the most recent in October 2020 was 96.29%, and the report from 2019 was 91.44%. And that is all I have.
Thank you for that. I'll look for questions or comments from my colleagues. Mayor Panko.
Thanks, Jason. And how we miss those days of 18, 19 when you got 100%, eh? But
Yeah.
no, obviously well done. I guess just, is there a threshold that if we fell below that, we should be concerned? I mean, I think if we're consistently in the 90s and then up to 100% sometimes, I think we're doing quite well. Like if my kids are coming home with marks like that, I'd be happy with it. But is there a threshold that we need to be aware of that would be a red flag?
I would, if you go back to the report, and there is a section that they have under the application and methodology for the public reporting and the numbers. So within both reports, there is that chart that outlines the areas that all the municipalities are falling in for the province and where they are. So I think it's majority of the the municipalities are all within the 90 to 100% range because of the strict regulations and what's required going through. There are only a few that are beyond that. So I think, every year we strive to do the best we can and to ensure that we're following all the rules and regulations. And, really the mark for us, it's hard to really attain a lower end.
Well, thanks for doing your job and keeping us in good standing.
Thanks for that. Councillor Alford, do you have your hand up? Yep.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. And thank you, Jason, for breaking this down into more chewable pieces for us. It's always a report that is extremely detailed. And because we don't, as councillors, work in that, it takes us a little while sometimes to wade through it. So I appreciate you doing that. There was a couple of things that stuck out to me. One is the harmful algae bloom monitoring plan. Is that something that we're working on? I know that is upriver of us, that would be a concern up there. So in the inspection report, it talks about that. Is that a plan we're working on?
Yeah, through the chair. Yeah, that is one of the procedures we are currently working on. Any drinking water works permit that has been renewed in the last little while, that is part of the renewal, and they add that right to your permit to take water and your licensing. So we've been proactively working, and we have a procedure in place. We just got to fine tune it because we don't have any numbers from the raw water to know exactly if we do have a blue-green algae problem certain times of the year. So we have to do some sampling and different things we have to add to that procedure to make sure that we can comply.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Chair, if I can,
Yep.
One or two more. I did notice too, and I wanted to because so often our water treatment operators are anonymous to the good work that they do. But I did note that the inspector said the operators do a good job documenting bench tests and organizing their in-house and their lab results and operational data and reports. And I know that all of that plays very heavily in any inspection. They're very strict about all that stuff, as we've all read. So I did think that our operators needed a shout out, or at least to relay that the inspectors gave them a shout out on the good work that they do. And lastly, I noticed in 2019, we only had 13 complaints that were related to taste and odor and color due to flushing, to flushing and repair and maintenance. That seems to me to be rather low. Is that sort of average, Jason?
I believe for our system, it's average. We went through that last year, and from the numbers that we have year to year, that's an average total for concerns and complaints in the system.
Well, then that speaks highly to the efficiency of our system if 13 complaints is all we got in a year's time. So thank you very much, Jason.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, comments? Thank you, Jason. And there's nothing more important than clean drinking water for our citizens. And I thank you for all you do. And as my old colleague, Mr. Graham used to say, thank you for keeping us out of jail, because we're the ones liable, and you do a fantastic job, in my opinion, and I think everyone would agree. So thanks for that. I think this report will just be received, and we appreciate your work. Correct, Nadine?
Yes, actually, we bring a formal resolution to receive that report.
Okay, we'll do that next week. So thank you very much, Jason.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Councillor Alford.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, but do all these reports for water and wastewater, are they all forwarded to Montague Township so that they can be informed as to, because we provide Anne Arundel with water and wastewater services, do they get copies of all this so that they understand?
They have copies of the annual report, which are online now, that Director Dunlop mentioned earlier. That's online, and a copy is given to them for that. They're considered their own system, so they have to provide these reports to their owner as well.
It's just
Not these reports, but their own reports that are similar. Like when they have inspections or summaries and stuff, they have to provide their own reports to their municipality.
Yeah, just in talking about water with Montague, I think it's important that they understand the complexity of what it takes to treat water and wastewater, and this could help inform them.
Yep, good point. And another point is that these reports are public and they're posted on our website, so they're viewable for all. So as chair, I will take congratulations on doing a snappy meeting tonight. I don't see anything else on the agenda other than a motion for adjournment. Moved by Councillor Allen, second by Councillor McKenna, that the committee adjourns its proceedings at 5:41 p.m. and stands so adjourned until the next duly called meeting of committee. All in favor? Okay. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.